good afternoon and welcome everyone. Welcome to the Beyond Belief, Madhvi. Glad to have you on the show. Just to give a background to everybody who's new over here, my name is Madhujit and I'm your host today. I have an organization called Ananya Women at Work, which is into diversity and inclusion consulting. We work with organizations to help them improve the gender diversity ratio. So give you a background about Beyond Belief. Beyond Belief is an initiative where we invite a guest and understand what are the beliefs that they have been able to go beyond to be where they are today. To get a background, there are certain beliefs in our growing up years. We pick up certain beliefs and certain attitudes and behaviors and beliefs that actually become our identity. And some of these beliefs become a bottleneck to go into a next level growth in our career, in our personal life, etc. Certain life instances or certain life journeys or collection of instances together kind of make us aware of these beliefs that we've picked up during our growing up years and perhaps we are not even aware of. So when we become aware of them, now personal growth is all about going beyond these beliefs. And in this particular initiative, we invite our guests, and today our guest, as you know, is Madhvi. Before I introduce Madhvi to all of you, I'd like to introduce my colleague Kirtika, who's the co-host today. Kirtika, please come and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody, and very big thanks, and very excited to have Madhvi with us, and looking forward for this session. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type your questions, and I'm going to be your co-host who would take and read up your questions. In case that if you yourself would like to read your questions, you can just unmute and read it before I do. So looking forward, guys.
iPad corner.
I think somebody has got their mic on.
Yes, I just mute that,
Yeah. Okay. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining. And with the kind of registrations we've had today, we know the kind of impact Madhvi has on our family and all the students and, in the entire generation of people there. So thank you all once again for joining. Now, about Madhvi, while she needs not much of an introduction, but I'd still like to read it out a little bit. Madhvi Garikapati is passionate about of all the facets of marketing and teaching, marketing to invigorating minds. She has more than 24 years of combined experience in industry, academics, research and training. She's trained in CAPSIM, a stimulative strategic management learning module, and has edited books on CRM, branding, and marketing, published and presented several research papers. She's currently an associate professor, marketing and strategy department, IBS Hyderabad, and is additionally coordinator student activities. She received Best Professor in Marketing Management Award by 20th Business School Affair and Devang Mehta Business School Awards. She also received IBSAF Best Teacher Award for Overall Performance and B School Professors, teachers who continuously innovate in style and substance for Academic Excellence Award in 7th DNI Innovative B School Awards. Her teaching interests include service marketing, marketing management, CRM, marketing communication, business strategy, brand management, and consumer behavior. Over the years, she has guided many students for award-winning internship projects, and has over 400 plus hours of executive training experience. Now, while I have read out a lot of the awards that Madhvi has received, but the kind of response we received when we've announced this program itself shows that requires absolutely no award. That itself shows the kind of commitment she has to her work. So welcome to the show, Madhvi. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the show. And apart from all this, I'd also like to share that Madhvi and I go back long. We did our MBA together, and when she was hesitating to come here, and I think I had to bring her out of that belief to get her here. Thanks, Madhvi, again for agreeing and accepting. So, Madhvi, going back to our college days, you joined MBA from a very, very different field. You came from a sciences background, and which was not very common in our MBA course at that time. And I mean, what I understood at that time that you wanted to become a doctor. But since you didn't get into medicine, you decided to pursue your sciences, but something brought you into management. So what was it like? How did you come from there?
Thank you, Madhu, and thank you for making me think beyond and beyond belief. So, as Madhu said, and thank you, Kritika, for that welcome. Thank you, Madhu, for that warm welcome. Yes, when Madhujit has asked me to come on to this, I was like, why me? I mean, I'm not really that special. There are a lot of other people who really are much better than me. That's the first thing. And then she made me think back. And while I was sitting and discussing a lot of stuff with Madhujit, I realized that, I mean, not that I'm great or anything, but then I did come across a lot of beliefs that I myself had, and I went on breaking them and then moving forward one step or the other in this 24, 25 years of, work that I had. So yes, thank you, Madhu, for believing in me and even bringing me here. Coming back to your question, yes, for everyone who has joined, Madhu is my friend from MBA, and then we've gone different directions. Hi, Deepika, and say hi to your little one. So we have gone different directions from there in terms of our career paths and all. So yes, MBA was a different belief for me in the sense that I wanted to be a doctor, as Madhu said, only because my eldest brother was a doctor. And then at that point of time, we were only strictly looking at doctor or engineer. And I thought I'm not really good at maths, so I'm good at sciences and I wanted to become a doctor. I didn't become that, obviously. I continued in the field of sciences for my graduation. I did, in fact, for many who don't know, most of my students also don't know, I'm actually a botany, zoology, chemistry graduation people. And from there, I jumped into management. Ironically, I didn't want to pursue the sciences because I thought at that point of time, that's my belief system, that if you pursue sciences, you end up becoming either a teacher or a researcher. You have no other, career opportunities if you become that. You can't join corporate. And I went into management. Management was comparatively new. No one in my family did an MBA then. So my family was also hesitant. And then I think as, you decide something and then the God thinks of something else. So I didn't want to become a teacher. So I left the sciences field. But then I did the management field and I took a turn back and I did become a teacher. And I think this is my true calling. It took me some time to understand, but I know this is my true calling. I enjoy this immensely.
I guess we were supposed to meet and that's why you landed in management, I guess.
Yeah, I know. For sure. Yes, yes.
So, I mean, so I remember from college, you got into something which is, I'm sure your students may not even understand what the products were, the office automation, so-called office automation products. I mean, today we don't hear it, but
yeah.
At that point in time, which was a very, very male-dominated industry. And today when we say male-dominated industry, it means something different. And you were like, you chose sales where women wouldn't go into sales, and you went into a very hardcore product, which was office automation, and you survived there. And there must be certain biases that you experienced as a woman there. So yeah. Would you like to tell us about it now?
Yes. So at that point of time, I mean, I didn't really know much of career options also. I think that was good because then probably I would have gone into some other direction. I thought the first thing for every marketing, management graduate should be sales. And those were the opportunities which were there a lot. As you said, even I didn't know what office automation was at that point of time. And when I got this offer with one of big companies, in fact, Ricoh had a tie-up with RPG. That's the Indian company. RPG Ricoh is where I joined in my first job. And I joined as a sales executive. So I didn't really think big. I thought I got a job because getting a job was difficult. I thought I got a job. Then I got a sales job, which is related to my MBA field. So I thought, okay, I got that. And I thought I'll learn about whatever is office automation once I go there. The only thing that I know is the competitor firm was Xerox. Okay. And Xerox is big. So this is a competitor of Xerox. So this probably is also decent enough. That's what I went. So on the first day when I actually went to the office, my boss was a North Indian. And then the first thing he came in and he said that, I didn't think you will join the company till the time you didn't put a step into the office. I was not very sure whether you join or no. And I was like, why is he thinking like that? And then he broke that, this thing that I didn't know. Thank God I didn't know that I am the only female sales executive. If I knew, probably I wouldn't have joined that company. He came in and he said that, because you're the first female sales executive in this company. So in India, in RPG Rico, I was the first female sales executive there. And they were experimenting with the concept of female sales executives at that point of time. Thank God I didn't know before I joined the company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have joined the company. And also something that I realized that even Xerox did not have, which was the competitor firm, did not also have any female sales executives. They have all male. So that was it. So we were a team of 9 salespeople at Rico, leaving my boss. The boss was also from a sales background, and 8 boys, 8 guys who were sales executives, and I was the one. So I didn't really think it was different. I just thought it's a job, then I have to go ahead and do. And I had to sit back and understand office automation and all these things. So for those who don't know office automation, it's basically, your photocopier machines or your Xerox machines. So there were times when I would go and say, not photocopier, Xerox machine bechne aayi ho, and people would really think back, what is a girl doing this, and there were a lot of people who would advise me, all these shopkeepers, the companies where I would go to sale. They would tell me, ye ladkiyon ka job nahi hai. ऐसा office क्यों जा रहे हो आप, you should think of something which is sitting and all that. I never felt, that it's a wrong job. Somehow I never got it. Some of the things which I did face in the office, and I didn't know how to handle that, I had to handle it over a period of time, is that all the 8 boys, not all the 8, in fact, out of 8, 7 of them were smokers, the boys. And, this is the sales routine. Once you come back in the evening after all the sales call, you do somewhere around 20 sales calls per day. That's minimum. That's how we have to. That means we have to visit 20 customers compulsorily. You come back to the office, you update your boss on all these sales calls and all these things. And they usually had a chilling atmosphere to do that. When I say chilling, all of them would be with a smoke, and including the boss. And I was the only one. There was only another guy with me who was not smoking, but then he was comfortable because obviously this is the entire thing. I couldn't tell them that, guys, you can't smoke. I can't tell that, okay, this is a lady, and then if there is a lady, you're not supposed to smoke in front of ladies. Nothing like that. I think probably I'm thankful for them not to consider me as a girl there, because they never gave a damn whether I'm sitting there or no, whatever it is. They just went ahead with their smoking. They discussed everything under the sky. And I had to get used to that. And the other guy, in fact, the one who was never smoking, he was comparatively sensitive. And he would come back and say, this is what you will face in the outside world. So don't complain now. That was one. Second thing was, after the morning, also morning we would come back. All salespeople would meet in the morning. Yeah. We would plan for our day's joints. We had, geographical territories divided. So we would, before going, we would keep saying, there are those gray areas where 2 people's territories meet. So we would say, ye wala hai, you want to take that call? Do you want me to take that call? And all those things. All those we would discuss behind the back's boss.
Okay.
Boss's back, because the boss is not supposed to know. And if I have, let's say 3 sales, things, and my colleague got only 1, so I would share one of mine, so that we would be equal. So we would kind of take care of each of us like that. So all of us would then, all these guys are used to, there are, where my office was, there are the Irani cafes.
Yeah.
So immediately after the call with the boss, and the boss giving us all the targets, all of them would go down to the Irani cafes and, obviously bitch about the boss, talk about the sales targets and all those things. And that again was another thing that I had to get used to, because these Irani cafes, typically you don't find any females there. These are all, guys. And then especially, sometimes lower ones, and then open smoking, and then chai pina hai and all those things. I am not someone who drinks tea. So I had to take, in the sense I not drink, but then I had to take the cup and sit with them. Yeah. So that I am considered as a part of their group. And then I had to sit there.
Yeah.
And for almost a month, I had to go do the sales calls with these guys because I was in the training. So things that I had to learn that, I mean, I have to ignore for the fact that this is my gender and then move forward. Because if I would keep bringing that up, probably I would not be accepted in that group, and getting accepted in that group was very important for me. So,
and we're talking about close to 25 years ago, 23 years ago rather. And at that point in time, it was tough for the women to integrate into the group. Today, as women, I'm sure, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'm sure the youngsters have it much more easier to integrate themselves and be present as a woman rather than, trying to integrate in the other gender. So they can. So thanks for sharing that. In fact, some of it I didn't know till date. Wow.
I think probably because I grew up with, I have two brothers, elder brothers, and I had a big cousin gang. I grew up with a lot of boys, so I didn't feel that I am supposed to behave separately or things like that. But also thanks to those guys who never gave me a second this thing as a girl or a woman. They didn't give me that consideration at all.
And I also recollect, I don't know if this is the right thing to share, but your mom was very, very unbiased towards all of you. She gave equal responsibilities to all of you, not because you're a girl, not because they're guys, but all of you were the same.
Oh, yes. My mom never cut any of those things. She would get up, go, do. And in fact, I remember first time when I had a two-wheeler, both my brothers insisted that I have to first learn how to, change the tire if I had to drive the vehicle. So they were protective, but they were also like this. If you learn how to change the tire, that's when you can start driving your vehicle. So I had to do that.
And if I'm not mistaken, Auntie just joined at the right time when we were talking about her.
Right. Hi, Mama.
So, and you just shared that, teaching was not something that you wanted, and that's why you moved out of this thing. And then you went into teaching. So how did you integrate yourself over there? Because something that you're not so fond of, and then you get into it, and then you're doing it. And teaching is a line where you can't afford not to put in your best because there's so many careers at stake.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? What was the experience like? What were the beliefs that you were busting there?
So when I came into teaching, that was not, in fact, by choice, rather, because I saw a good opportunity. I had joined one of the Usman University based colleges. And then ICFI happened to put up its, recruitment, this thing. So it was my husband who said that, why don't you try this line? I think poor guy, he must have thought at that time that it's a very comfortable career. You can go by, 9 o'clock and come back home by 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that a single day in my career. That was not a choice that I had even for a single day. So you're there at 9, you forget when you come back.
Yeah.
You don't know. There are times when I would come back at 6. And right now, there are times when I come back at 10 and 11 in the night also. So, the entire people are like, why did I kind of send you into this thing? That was there. So, and then when I joined into teaching, there are two things. One, I didn't really believe that this is a job that I would be continuing to work on, because I told you, it still took me time to accept that I would be in this line.
Yeah.
And that's first. And the second one was that it is not the traditional kind of teaching that I was exposed to till then, in the sense that your college, our college, if you remember, the teacher would just come, start writing on the board, and then, start saying, you read this and go, and then you go run around to the, library, search for the books and all those things. It is absolutely not like that at all. Mm-hmm. So I think, thank God it was not the same, because I had to learn different things. And when I joined, I was pretty young, comparatively still young, even if I had some corporate exposure. I was only around 26, 27 when I came into teaching. And in the classes that I was put in, I had students who were my age, very few students who were younger than me, a lot of students my age, and some students who were older to me.
Okay.
So they were already experienced. So they would sit in, I can still recall a lot of faces if some of them have joined, because I have my 2002 and 2003 batch students also who said they'll join. And they would come and sit. The front 2 rows were the challenging rows for me. You know, because they wowould come and say that chalo dekhte hain aaj kya padayegi, kind of. And so my entire focus was, I knew these guys are going to come with these kind of difficult questions. So I would get up at 3 in the morning for a topic that I know also, and I would look at all the companies that are working in the same area. I would look at what probable questions will these guys ask me, and then prepare. So I was constantly working. So I never really had the time to think that, you know, when will I get out of this profession? I never thought about it. I mean, it was constantly something to work on, and it was exciting. So I would throw back the challenges to them. I would give them assignments which were live. So they would come back again. So that was a constant thing. So I enjoyed it. I started enjoying it.
Yeah, and when you say you used to get up at 3 to read up, we didn't
Yes.
have internet at that time. We had to get physical copies.
All the books. All the books.
Maybe organize the books and magazines beforehand and keep it, and then go through them.
So I don't know if some of these students would remember, some of them who are there. I would actually take paper cuttings into the class.
Okay.
And I would carry some of the, and paper cuttings, I would show them, I would ask them to paste it. And in the end, I would actually ask them also to make a, you know, a kind of a book where with all these paper cuttings also, so that, you know, we look at what is the latest that's happening. So I had all that. And yes, at the back of the mind, I would keep thinking, if only I studied like this, I wouldn't have gone into the doctors, this thing, not stayed here as a teacher here today.
So life has been pretty much, you know, something that you kind of decided you're not going to get into it, and you get into it. Like Mumbai happened. Then, I mean, when everything is going on fine, then Mumbai happened, and Mumbai was the city of your choice. I mean, it was something that you, as you shared, something that you've not had I mean, something that Mumbai was not the city you would wish to live. And you excelled there too. So what happened over there? How was it then? What was it?
So Mumbai, I mean, I shifted to Mumbai because my husband was working with the bank. So obviously the banks had transfers, so we had to shift there. And Mumbai was one place which I visited in my childhood, and I didn't really like that place. It is filthy. It is full of people, crammed, and no one has time for anyone else. You just keep rushing. And then, you know, there were times when I would just stand in that VT, and then I think rush hour, all those who have seen Mumbai at least once, in the rush hour time, you just stand near those central locations, and then you see the amount of people rushing through. I hated that place. And then I went there, right there. And then I would keep on cribbing. I mean, why did I come here? But then, I mean, after a year, Mumbai grows on you. I mean, this is something that I can proudly say, that Mumbai grows on you. And I think when I shifted back from Mumbai, I desperately missed Mumbai. I still miss Mumbai. And then I had my mom would keep saying, you were born and brought up in Hyderabad, and you're cribbing about Hyderabad and saying you're missing Mumbai. Yes, I miss Mumbai. So shifting to Mumbai, even if I was exposed to, you know, students, and I was exposed to the kind of, what do you say, rapid pace of teaching and all that, was still a cultural shock for me. Because one, the students were much more, in the sense that it was a different setup. And you have a big crowd of this typical Mumbai students, you know, a combination of Maharashtra and, you know, Gujaratis and all these things, who were cutthroat.
Okay.
I mean, you know, Hyderabad, I think the students in Hyderabad also is a mix of all. But then once you come to Hyderabad, you become a little laid back.
Okay.
People there in Mumbai, they're not laid back at all. I mean, you know, they were also giving me the same thing, the same dose that I got in my first year, second year of my teaching. Like, okay, we are going to see what you're going to do. Okay. I mean, you know, what are you going to give us back for the 1 rupee that we are spending in your class? That's how it was. So that was again a challenge for me there. One with the students, challenge again with me in my, you know, in my office also, in the sense that all the other colleagues and the administration there, because even if I was shifting in the same college, from let's say Hyderabad campus to the Mumbai campus, the entire, they were hardly 1 or 2 South Indians, number one there.
Okay.
Most of them were other, this thing, and there are not a single Telugu speaking, so my language is out. And you know, that comfort zone was out. I'm out of my comfort zone, thrown out of my comfort zone. And because Hyderabad is actually the head office for, you know, the college where I work, IBS.
Yeah.
And Mumbai is one of the centers. So everyone would think that I am a spy who has come from Hyderabad.
Okay.
Because I have come
You're
from
talking about the staff and all, not the students.
yes, the
Okay.
staff, I mean, the management, the staff, I know, I mean, they are there here, some of them are here, but then we know that this is what they will. So they would always be a little cautious. They wouldn't be openly hostile or openly welcoming me, but they would be very cautious. So I'm left alone. If I want anything, I had to go and request and do. So I remember, in fact, one experience I would share, because I have one of my students, Deepika, there, and I'm not sure whether Preetam has joined. Preetam was also there. So after I joined, within a year or so, there was some conference that the college used to do.
Okay.
So they suddenly, out of blue, I questioned one conference that happened a year before. So the next time when they had a meeting, they said, "Okay, Madhvi, you had these problems with that conference. Why don't you handle the next conference?" That's it. It came onto me.
Uh-huh.
I wanted, like, okay, I was only giving, I mean, I wanted to say I was only giving some kind of feedback. I didn't want the conference on me.
Uh-huh.
But I had, and whatever way it is, I was given these 4 students. So Deepika has joined, is also one of the students who was there. I was given these 4 students to work with, to help me in terms of handling that particular conference. So I had to do the entire conference with the help of them. And I remember we would sit in the night at 9, 10 some of the days. And at 11, they would say, "Ma'am, you go home. We will try to finish whatever is there, and then we'll come back and look at the work tomorrow." And that's how it is. The only way that I think I repaid them back is by thank you. And they all came home to have my South Indian dosas.
Okay. That's interesting. So, Madhvi, we'll just take a pause over here right now.
Yeah.
We'll check with Kirtika if there are any questions. And for some of them who have to leave, we'll just take a quick picture. So we'll ask everybody to come on the cameras and put the cameras on for a moment, and we'll take a quick picture. So request everyone to put on the cameras, and Kirtika, in the meanwhile, you can just see if there are any questions.
We don't have any questions yet, ma'am, but I'm sure that 4:30 is what few students have told that they have to go. So probably we can take a shot together.
Yeah, so all of you who've not here, all of you, please request you to switch on the cameras. We're taking a picture, and put on your best smiles now. Yeah, here we go. Yes, and one more. Yes, please. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the picture. Yes, so we are done with the picture. And no questions, but there are somebody who's saying hi. Kirtika, you would like to share that?
Yes, so she was asking whether, I look familiar, and am I from Chennai too? So it was a private message which I got, so I've just replied to that. But for Madhavi, we have a lot of highs. Even in Facebook, we have hi Madhavi from Ranjini, and we have from Shaila and people like that.
So hi everyone. I see some of my hi Khushbu, hi Pranav, hi Kuntal, Pritika, a lot of gang of
we have one every
Shailja.
minute somebody joining.
Yeah.
So we have somebody also sharing that Shailaja from SMSSA.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah.
So she says
So
hi.
Shailja. Yeah.
And Pranav says hi, Nilima says hi, Khushbu says hi, so a whole lot of them. Okay, so we go move to the next question. So Madhvi, you were also sharing with me in our previous conversation, you were also sharing with me about this, the mini MBA that you had done, and that experience, if you'd like to share.
Okay.
So
some of the things which I openly accepted when the challenge was given, and many of the things I was very hesitant, a lot hesitant. So again, this went back to, I think, a belief that I had to break it later, was that anything that would come with relation to teaching, I would accept quickly, because I thought, it's going to help me out. And anything which was unrelated, I would, I would kind of take some time. So when I was in Hyderabad only, before I shifted to Mumbai, my college used to do these books, edited books and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was pretty young, I think, but still, and I was one of the less experienced persons, but then the college gave me the opportunity to edit a lot of books and also teach executive MBA students here. So I had students who were, I think there was a army major who was 58 years old, who was the oldest at that time when I started teaching the executive MBA, and people from, I think, All India Radio, Prasar Bharati. So they took me back to train their own people in marketing. So those things I kind of was hesitant, but I did take up thinking that, okay, I may learn something. That was always the point. And when I shifted to Mumbai, luckily those opportunities also came a lot. But in Mumbai, I was very hesitant to take a lot of these opportunities for the simple reason that the traveling itself was very high. And, there is this constant, this thing that would go at the back of my mind that, I'm a mother, I have to take care of my kids. If I spend more time, taking up these executive MBAs, because executive MBAs would happen either in the evenings or on the weekends. And, that guilt, the mother's guilt keeps playing that, I'm not giving any time to the kids, so why should I take these? But then the teacher, or let's say the person in me, wanted to try that one more thing. I was a sucker for the, the appreciation that you would get at the end of the session when the students say, ma'am, this was really interesting. Even if one student would come back and say, I have learned something. And or some student calls me back after a year of passing out and say, ma'am, that point that we discussed in the class, and then you know what, I did that same thing today. That was something which was very high. So we had this mini MBA thing actually is a followed of another executive MBA that I have handled, and the people there really liked. So some of them really liked, and then there is something called as a Zalawad community. And that community has had an MOU with IBS Mumbai, and they had this mini MBA thing. And I don't know what happened. After the first sessions that happened with some other faculty, it was supposed to be spread over 3 months. And I was given 2 different courses there. So, and my courses were supposed to start, I think, 2nd week or 3rd week after the mini MBA course started. After the first week, there was some kind of, I think, feedback or something that has happened. And they replaced more or less all the faculty except for me and one more faculty for business strategy. And I came to know after I took my first session, and I was worried because, it was based on some feedback or something I said. Then I asked this person whom I taught already in the executive MBA. So he said, ma'am, that's not for you. You continue. So I continued, I took my courses, and every time when I would go back, I would keep thinking, okay, they may ask me to stop. So I was doing an extra work. And this particular group of people who were there, majority of them are businessmen. And out of that businessmen also, majority of them were into diamond merchandising business.
Okay.
So I would sit back and read a lot of diamond industry. And whatever were the marketing concepts or the strategy concepts that I was teaching, I would try to connect it with how that particular industry was handling that issue.
Okay.
And I would keep on taking. So every day there has to be something new from my side. That was my challenge. I would go back. So in the end, after that, my course was over, and they said, ma'am, your course was very good. They took my number, all of them went back and all that. And after, I think towards the end of the course, I received a feedback note from the team.
Okay.
And I was very happy because I was thrilled, not just happy, because I got out of 94% of them have given me excellent as a feedback out of that scale of 1 to 5. And then I thought, wow. And then I was invited for their, I think one of the few faculty who was invited for their convocation that they had.
Okay.
That's a mini MBA experience. And then, but then that also, I was thinking, as I was saying, it was hesitant. My belief was that probably I'm not good. There are others who are good. But it so happened that, I could go ahead and do it, go beyond my own belief.
Yeah, and saying that yes to opportunities, you went there.
Yes.
When you so wanted to say no.
Hesitantly saying yes. I never went openly in terms of saying yes to opportunities. I would always think, why is this coming to me? And then after saying probably no once or twice in my own mind, and then, coming out of all that, I would say, okay, let me just try for some time and then see.
Actually, one of my friends says this. She says that say yes before you say no. So say yes, look at it, the feasibility. If it's not feasible, then say no, but don't say start with a no.
So I always went in the opposite then. I would say no. And then after saying no a couple of times, I would say, I mean, it might not look nice every time if I say no. So let me say yes for this one time. That's how I used to go.
And in that, you may have missed a lot of opportunities. In
Probably,
that,
yes. Yes, probably.
Mm-hmm. So the next
We have
question.
some questions, Madhujit ma'am. Should we go ahead with that, or you would want to ask yours?
I mean, whichever way you want.
Let's just go ahead and ask the questions first. Yes.
Okay. So we have a lot of hi and hellos. I'm just going to get straight away to the question from Pranav. We are okay. Sorry, from Shrikant, we have Dr. Reddy's lab job was an interesting experience. What did it teach you?
Okay, so do you want me to do it one by one, or do you want to finish all the?
I think you can go ahead and I can get the question next to you, Madhavi.
Yeah. Madhvi, you've been muted. Madhvi, you've been muted.
So I didn't unmute. I think somehow it got muted. Sorry, I didn't mute it. Sorry.
No.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Reddy's happened to me after I shifted from RPG Rico after the Office of Automation Sales. And I think I was lucky enough because I ended up in the right job. I was a science graduate, and then I did my MBA. And Dr. Reddy's at that point of time wanted someone who had a chemistry background plus a management background. So I kind of was the right fit for them. So when this thing went to, I think I was headhunted actually. Okay. I was headhunted by the office, the one which does the recruitments and all. And they didn't put me through a lot of interview process. They put me through very less interview process, and then they picked me up. And then I was thinking, how come I got it so easily? And I realized only after there that, till then, obviously, a lot of people would have these questions, why did you had a science background? Why did you shift to management or MBA? But I just wanted to tell them that, when you look back, you connect the dots. So for me, the dots got connected. Why I had a science graduation and then why an MBA. Both the dots got connected because Dr. Reddy's wanted someone with a science background and a management marketing background, because I was handling the role of international marketing officer. So I was with the international marketing department. My boss I was reporting directly to the head of the marketing for the entire globe, and a very, very challenging person. And he had the memory of an elephant. So one small mistake that I would do, and I would hope that he would forget that mistake, because there were so many other things. He would come back after 2 days and he said that you did that mistake. So I had to be really, on my this thing. I did make some mistakes there, and I learned, because they would keep, we have to send quotations to internationally. So we didn't have internet so much. We just had mails. And then we used a lot of fax for sending the quotations to across the globe. So without asking him, there are times when I would send the quotes. And then he would call me back saying that, do you really understand what a quote is and what this is? You have to go background work and understand all the prices, because there are times when I would have priced a little higher and we would have missed out the business. And there are times when I would say I would send the samples, 25 grams of samples, where just 1 gram itself was too costly. So those kind of things. But the boss was really good. I mean, he made me learn. He would give it back to me. He made me learn.
Interesting. The next question, yes.
We have one more question, Madhavi. Actually, Khushbu is asking, what did Section E IBS 2012 Mumbai teach you?
Section E was very special. In fact, I have every batch that I had. I definitely have some of the gems from them coming back, and then I still am connected to most of these people. So Khushbu, then Azim, and all were from, I think, from this particular batch. And they would come with a lot of questions. So in the class, if I put a challenge and then just walk out, I would always do that. Towards the end of the session, I would always pose one difficult question and then walk out. I would say, check this and come back.
Okay.
Many a times I would do that because they shouldn't ask me questions immediately. I'm buying some time myself. I'm being honest and accepting that. But at the same point of time, these guys would go back and do all that work and come back for more challenge for me. So that means I have to burn more midnight oil. So thank you for making me burn that midnight oil.
Great. And Bhavya asks, as you said, ma'am, like 25 years back, you were the only female executive, and people do not have thought for a female salesperson. But still, after so many years, the situation is kind of same. I don't want to discuss, but still things are kind of same. So what would you convey message for female salesperson?
Yeah, I guess so, because there is one, I mean, even if you want to move forward, there is a lot of stereotyping that still happens. I have a lot of students who are into sales, female students who are into sales. I think the guys get accepted easily, but the girls don't get accepted easily. Or it's not just the girls do not get accepted. There is a lot that happens from the family side also. Sometimes the parents themselves think that, this is not a job for girls, or the society thinks that this is not the job for the girls. So we still have a lot of those kind of stereotypes that are there. But this is something that I have always said, that if you love to do something, if you are passionate about it, go ahead and do it. Forget about what others say, because someday, you have to end up doing what you're liking. If you don't like what you're doing, I mean, there's no point. You will end up being very dissatisfied, very depressed, and, probably end up blaming a lot. So for me, I think every time, because of the challenge that was there, I enjoyed it. So there is still there, but you would find a place. Don't worry. I mean, not every company shies away girls. Not every company would think that girls are not fit. You would find a perfect fit sometime. So hold on.
I'll also add that find your tribe. That's very, very critical. You network a lot. I mean, especially in sales jobs, when we still don't have women in a lot of industries per se. So they need to network, and they need to find mentors, and they need to keep connecting with people like you who can guide them at every stage, because life is tough. And you may have being in sales as women, they may have one challenge, but don't assume others don't have challenge. Don't assume men don't have challenge. Don't assume women who are not into sales don't have challenges. Everyone has challenges.
No, even guys have a challenge. It's not just women.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I had students who were working with, I think, if I remember, in Mumbai only, Outlook publishing company, and typically trying to increase the subscription sales.
Okay.
I mean, these guys would try. I think I remember in a group of people, there was one guy who would try, and then he wouldn't crack a single one. There was a day when he came, and then he came back. I said, see, if this is not happening, then you would not get the salary properly. You would not get something. I think I scolded him, saying that you should be able to, get up and go back and work. Yeah. So right there, where we were sitting and talking in the class, not in the class, in my cabin, that boy started crying. I mean, I'm not taking the name purposefully. The boy started crying, and I didn't know for a second how do you console a grown-up boy? I mean, somewhere around 23, 24, coming and sitting. So I sat down with him. I allowed him to cry, and I allowed him to do all that. And at the end of the time, I said, see, it's okay. Come, show your frustration here. Get it out. Because if you're frustrated, you need to get it out somewhere. But in the end, something that you have to learn is that there is no emotions in the corporate world. When you want to move forward, there are no emotions in the corporate world. A corporate world wouldn't accept those kind of things. So you still have to hold on to what you believe, but then you still have to move on. And I think after a year or so, the boy, he did do very well in that particular job. And then he sends me a mail saying that even now, whenever we meet, whenever we talk, he says that, ma'am, that one sentence I will never forget. There is no scope for emotions in the corporate world is something that I will never forget. That put me, forward to everything else. So
fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. That's powerful. So what we, so we have to understand that, while there are challenges for women in sales, but there are challenges for men. There are challenges for women not in sales. Everywhere there are challenges. Everyone assumes that their own challenge is the biggest challenge. So
No, yeah, challenges are there everywhere.
yeah, despite our challenges, despite our beliefs, we have to move on.
True.
So I think, Madhujit ma'am, if we are going to be continuing with questions, you're going to be, listening to her answer. So you go ahead with the question, maybe.
I just have one primary question that, it relates to what you've already said, that, Madhvi, you took up this thing as student coordinator, and that's something that you've been shying away for a very long time. And that, as I understand, is typically a young faculty, a male faculty who can stay back, the stereotypically thinking about that, who would be in a position to stay back, would take it up, and you took it up. So would you like to share something about that? So,
okay. So as part of teaching, I always included a lot of activities, because I thought that the students will be more excited if there is something for them to do, for them to get involved and all. And also for me as a teacher also, I would get very, enthused when I am involving them in the, activities. So there are a lot of activities even in the classroom that I end up doing. But however, I mean, even this happened in Mumbai also, when they've asked me to handle students. Typically, most of the colleges, and especially the management colleges, they have these student clubs, which are for different, curricular and extracurricular activities. And Mumbai, whenever they've offered me, I said that, no, I'm not the person. I mean, I'm not, as I told you, I have never said yes to those kind of things. I thought it's not related to my teacher's role, though I was involved in activities. So I've said no there. Very emphatically, I said no. I've handled the other responsibilities, but I said no there. So I shifted back to Hyderabad, and Hyderabad, IBS Hyderabad has somewhere around 30 clubs, student clubs. So they would ask me in the classroom that discussions would happen, and I would restrict it to the classroom, out of the classroom in general. I've never took up the opportunity. So I was asked once, I said no. And then again, when I asked, when I was myself going back and looking at it, it was typically what was the discussion that went on. And I believe that at that point of time also, that it is a role for a male faculty. Why? Because all the student activities would happen after the academic hours, which is 9 to 6 are typically the academic hours. And 6 o'clock onwards, all these students become very active, especially in Hyderabad, especially Mumbai, still the activities would close, let's say max by around 8 o'clock, 4 to 6, because Mumbai campus is not a on campus, it's not, students are not staying on campus. They are all traveling elsewhere. So obviously they have to finish everything because people have to travel back. So max by 6, 7, 8, it would close. Whereas Hyderabad, the entire, it's a beautiful campus, 93-acre campus, where the students are on the campus only. They live on the campus for the 2 years that they are doing their MBA. So they have all the time in the world from 6 o'clock in the evening till 9 o'clock next day morning to do all the activities. And that's how they would do. And you would actually see that the college comes alive after 6 p.m. 9 to 6, you see these sleepy faces of students walking in and walking out of classes, because they would, and typically they would be in their pajamas. Sorry if I'm saying this to all of them. But 6 o'clock, you would see them fresh, fully dressed, because there is some event happening, this thing happening and all that. And they would be there. So this particular role of someone coordinating the student activities, or the faculty member coordinating, it was always given to a faculty member, number one. It was not given to anyone else other than, it was not considered as just an administrative person. It was given to this only. And because faculty can connect to what's happening in the class and connect with the students out of it. And typically, again, as I said, a male, because once the events start happening at 6 o'clock in the evening, they usually go on till 10 o'clock, 10 in the night. Or if we have major events, like you have a college fest and all, college fest would go on till 11, 12 in the night. And again would start pretty early in the morning, because by 5:36, you would have these extracurricular, the sports events and all that is happening. So the person should be there. So typically it was thought that, a guy can stay back and also a guy, not again senior guys also. Okay, there was this thing that, you know, it is supposedly a junior fellow who's either probably just married or has a very young family, so that he doesn't have much of responsibility at the family side. He can spend more time in the campus with the students. That's how it was all the time. So when it came to me, I was like, are these people crazy? I mean, you know, because this is supposed to be done by guys. And then I thought that, you know, probably they'll give me, because I'm a little senior, and give me a guy who would work all this, and then I can just kind of boss over. Ironically, neither of them happened. There is no subordinate there.
Okay.
And then when they gave it to me, they thought that, I mean, there were also a lot of my colleagues who came and he said, you know, why did you accept it? You know, please tell them, try for 2 months and then tell them that you can't handle and give it back, you know, all those kind of things. And I was not very sure that I can do it, but I thought because I said no to something else,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say no to this. That was typically the reason why I picked up. And I thought, okay, let me try it for a month, for a year. Let me try it for a year. And then in the end, and then I'll say, okay, sorry, I tried it for a year. You wanted me to try it. I tried it for a year. Now I'm giving it back to you. You give it to someone else. That's what I thought.
Okay.
But this was like, you know, what do you say? A boost of energy for me. You know?
Okay.
Till then, which I didn't know. I'm happy to acknowledge that I was wrong. You know, that I was not, I thought that I was not a good fit there, right? Because till then I was looking at, as a teacher, I was looking at students only in the classroom and some parts in those activities that I was handling and the work that I was giving. Now this role of a student activities coordinator gave me the 360-degree perspective of a student.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not just looking at students from 9 to 6. I'm also looking at this, how the students would be from, 6 o'clock in the evening till 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and how they would take care and all those things. So there are times, yes, I stayed back. For many people who think that women cannot stay, I stayed back after 6. I was there on campus many a times till 8, 9, 7 and 8 was very routine for me. There were all these events. When these events were happening, I was there at, till 10 and 11. And sometimes I actually stayed back on campus when we had these major fests, because it was a campus. We had a guest houses there in the campus. Of course, many of my students didn't know that I stayed back in campus. I didn't tell them because they would kill me. I mean, because they would keep on pestering me. Okay, so I stayed back, and then I stayed back also. But then there are times when I actually drove back at 11. So there were a lot of people who would come back and say, what is this women driving back at 11 p.m. And the campus is 45 kilometers away. I stay 22 kilometers away from the campus. The roads are actually a little, they are empty. But they're beautiful to drive in the night. I enjoy driving, so they're beautiful to drive in the night because you have the entire road for yourself.
Yeah.
You enjoy all that. But then I enjoyed it. I did it. And then I think today, anything that comes up in any of these management meetings, the minute it is related to student or the word student comes, they immediately turn to me and say, Madhvi, can you do something in this? So I think I changed it. I think it for myself that, from the time, and I myself did not believe that I could do it.
Okay.
But I have done it. So I have turned my own belief into a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I took up these things. So all the students who were there from Mumbai probably would be surprised, because I never stayed back for any of the major events. I would say, no, I don't have time. I don't have time, and I would run away. And now I'm sitting and, taking up all these challenges, doing all these things.
So before, fantastic. So a lot of beliefs that you've shared. For me, the learning there is say yes to opportunities, and we don't know our own potential and capabilities. So before I hand over the entire thing to Kritika now, there is a private message which has come in to me, and they want me to ask you about the marketing games that you've initiated.
Oh.
So you know who that person is?
Okay, so I would have my entire, the initial students of IBS Hyderabad would remember that I would have these games. Yeah. The students in the last 5 years would know that I would have games in the classes.
Okay.
But the entire batch of IBS Mumbai would know that all my students, my sections, because I was teaching the course of marketing and strategy there, to make them understand the course, I would actually put them through rigorously. Then they would come and crib at that point of time. I know, guys, all of you cribbed at me at that time. That, you know, ma'am, 10 mark ke liye itna kaam koi karwata hai kya? That is what I would end up getting this thing, because it was, and I would evaluate that. So because I would say that I would evaluate that, all of them had to participate.
Okay.
Right? And then they would end up saying that, you know, just give us a, you know, quiz, or just give us a small test now. Why are you making us do all that? So I would make these students, I'm just, briefly telling you, I would make these students, I would give them raw material.
Yeah.
I would bring the raw material from outside. I would give equal amount of raw material to them. And I would give them a list of things that they can use other than the raw material that I have given. It is restricted to the only last.
Okay.
And I would give them 3 days to make their products and come back and sell it to the entire college. So we actually printed IBS Mumbai money. I still have some of them. I think every batch of students who were involved in that, they took one note from me and then, you know, kept it there. So we printed IBS Mumbai money for that. And then I distributed the money to my faculty colleagues, some of the outsiders who would come, the management, staff, and everyone, not to the students. And I would tell these, I would ask these students to, we would have a half a day, cleared in the calendar, any of the day. And they are supposed to sell their products in that half a day. 3 hours time, they are supposed to sell their products. The one who sells the maximum, the one who brands everything, and then I would go back to all these customers, so-called customers to whom I gave the cash to buy these products, take a feedback from them and share the feedback to them. So I was trying to tell them that this is the entire marketing that you are doing. So you're going back and learning all the concepts hands-on. So it was a challenge, but it was pretty interesting. I think every batch has their pictures on the FB, and in fact, just a month back, I saw someone again going back and revisiting those memories and tagging me back again. I think some memories were created, even if they were cribbing at that time.
That's interesting. Yes, Kirtika, over to you. Now I keep my mouth shut.
We have a lot of questions, I see, and Pranav's question was something about the same marketing game. So I'm skipping that question because your answer was already there. So we have a question from Rajini in Facebook. She asks you, how did your close friends influence you on this no to yes journey? How did your close friends influence you on this no to yes journey?
Okay, so I had a very, I was lucky to have a very good group of friends, both in, let's say in college. Madhu is there. We have a gang, and then we keep going berserk whenever we meet. In my first phase of IBS Hyderabad, also I had friends, and then IBS Mumbai also I had. IBS Hyderabad, I had Ratnaja, I had Hilda, I had Madhvi, and I had Sushma, who are very close. And then they're all from different zones in it. And IBS Mumbai, I had Prema and Rachna, then Rajni, a lot of group of these people who were there. And we would go out, and each one of the time when we had to say yes or no, we would keep discussing, this challenge has come to me, what do you say? And there are times when we would just get worked up for no reason and say no, probably. And then in the end realize how dumb we were. We should have said yes and we would have gone forward. And, or there are times when, each one of us would push the other to move forward. And I think it is very important to have very good friends, because there are times when you cannot see what is right to you, but the others know your capabilities and they would push. So that way I was lucky that I had friends who would say, when I would say why I am being pushed into it, they would say, you are a big Dumbo. Go ahead and take it up. That's something that that would come to me. So I was very lucky to have these friends. And they would say, when I would say that, what would I do? I don't think I would do very well here. And they would say, You just go and do it. You know you are going to rock it. So before shifting from Mumbai, I was the associate dean there. And I was not very sure whether I would fit there as the associate dean. So I went in, and I remember my friends coming back and saying, just shut up and go accept it and then go ahead and do it. We'll see. We'll see what happens later. If you fail, it's okay. You come back. We'll still sit and eat with you. That's what they would say.
Beautiful. Lovely. And Madhavi, next question is from Preetham. How was your experience conducting the first CRM Expo at Mumbai in 2007?
Okay, Preetham, you came in late. I just discussed about the CRM conference. Deepika was here, so I just discussed about the CRM conference, and I also shared how you guys made me make hot dosas at my home as a treat for all the work that you guys have done. And as Preetham was also one of them who was a part of that CRM conference that I did, and one of the 4 major pillars that I had at that time. I mean, lot of memories, lot of struggle, lot of memories, because we bought in, I don't know how many of you know, we bought in a person called as Harish Bijur. He's known as the branding guru in India. Okay. And it is considered very difficult to bring him in. And he just flew from Bangalore to Mumbai for our, conference, and he flew back, and which we thought is a great thing. So in the end, forget about anyone or what others say. We all turned back, and then we did a pat to ourselves. And that is something that I keep telling to all my students, even today.
I think we've lost Madhavi because of...
Just turn back and do this to yourselves. You have done a good job.
Okay.
Lovely. Great. Madhavi, next question is from Kirtana. Hello, ma'am. Like you spoke about working late and managing tasks at your workplace. So how did you manage the work-life balance? And you also continue to do so. So what message would you like to give all of us?
Okay, so something that I keep thinking, I always thought that, consciously you have to do a work-life balance, but somehow I think the work and life has balanced me. I am not sure how to balance these two. So I don't really think I'm still an expert, but yes, I did get a lot of support from my family. And this part of the challenge where I have been staying back a little late and then working, I thought is probably because my kids are also a little grown up now. The younger one is still in school, but then they're comparatively grown up and they do understand. And I realized that, yes, I can take some time. Even in Mumbai, when I was handling the executive MBA classes, there are times when it was on weekends. There were times when it was on weekdays. Weekdays especially, it would go on from 7 in the evening to 9:30 in the evening. So I remember traveling in empty coaches of local trains back to my home, and somehow managing. If one day I was going late, then the other day I would try to stay back home for a little longer, so that, my own guilt. It's not that the family is complaining, but it was my own guilt that I as a mother is missing out, and then I would try to do it. So somehow that happened. So, and yes, one of the things, as I told, when the fest happened and I had to stay overnight in the campus, there are many times I would pull my entire family to the campus. So poor guys, they would come back, stay with me because it's over the weekend. And I would tell them, consider my campus as a resort. You guys chill out, you guys walk, you guys take a, jog or whatever it is in the campus, or you just take a drive around the campus. I will keep doing my work, and whenever I'm free, I'll come back and sit with you. So that is something that I have also done. I've taken my family along with me. And because there were a lot of fest and students were involved, there were a lot of activities that were involved, it was fun. So they would come watch these and they would go back. If they get bored, they would go back.
Lovely.
This is work and personal life integration and not balance.
It's like sync. It's all in sync.
I think so. I agree. It's more of an integration.
Balance is like, I still feel it's about the two separate things, but we are integrating it. So a quick time check. We are already 4 minutes past 5. I'm sure people are pretty interested in still continuing. Wanted to check with you, Madhavi. How are you on time?
I'm good. I can stay.
Oh, perfect. Then let's go ahead then.
Sure, sure. So, Deepika's question next is, you have been saying yes to every opportunity coming your way, but how do we say no if we are not interested?
Kritika, I think ma'am's already answered my question. She just
Yes.
answered yes. She's
Yes,
done that.
just I was just going to say that she's taken that up, and also I think Deepa wanted to ask some question and she raised hand. So Deepa, could you unmute and ask something if you'd like to?
I think maybe that's by mistake. So Deepa, if you have, you please come back later.
Yeah.
Okay, and yes.
Yeah, but
So,
then sometimes, yes, as Deepika was asking, sometimes it is difficult to say no. But many a times for me, it was more difficult to say yes. And I would keep saying no many a times. And even now, there are times when I keep saying, no. I have learned to say no over a period of time for the things. Or I would say that, okay, let me do it this time. And let me say no next time, so that at that time I can tell them, you already gave me this and I did it without any problem. You don't give me anything else. So I would do at least once, so that the next time I can say no, because I've already done once.
nice. Okay. So, Madhavi, Anjali has asked you, ma'am, did you ever felt or regretted something of which you have done or doing would ever? Just a minute. I think there's something of.
Would you want to change something? Yeah.
Yeah. Would you want to change something that you regretted, or would you like to change something that you've done already?
Yeah. A lot of things that I would like to change. If I can go back 20 years back, I would have probably said yes a little bit more often. Probably would have been more confident, because I thought, I was not the right person to do many of the things. And then I would keep thinking, I think by fluke, this thing came towards me and I'm doing it. Probably someone else is more. Like, for example, as I said, I did books very early in my career at IBS. And, I did a couple of books on CRM. I mean, it was not that I was an expert at that point of time, but I was given an opportunity and I was doing this along with a lot of senior people who were there at that time. And I thought I was lucky enough to be a part of that group which was doing those books. But ironically, I mean, later I realized that the books that I have done, some of these books, they are as, as reference books in other college courses. And some of these books went for a second and a third reprint in our own publication, which means each print is somewhere around 10,000 books. So which means every time when 10,000 books were sold, they go for a second and third reprint. So I did it. I mean, then I realized, okay, I did a good job. That's the reason probably it's coming in. So I regret not saying yes a little bit more. And yes, I regret not going forward and asking for, opportunities. I was most of the time a little laid back, in the sense that I would keep thinking that, if my job is good, someone would recognize and come forward and offer the additional job, which I think if I would go back, I don't think that happens like that every time. So if you think you're capable, you should go forward and ask, which I think is one of the difference. Probably guys are able to go ahead and ask. I'm assuming. I'm sorry. If someone feels bad, I'm sorry, then I'm saying sorry now. But probably that as a female, I thought, I shouldn't go ahead and ask. Let them see my work and then let them come back and ask me. Probably I should change that. I should have changed that, or I can still change that.
So it should actually be saying, seeking opportunity, not saying yes to opportunity. So let it not come, but you go out. So
yes, seeking opportunity. That I've never done. I've not gone out of my way asking. Only, after I see a couple of times when I think I would have done a good job and someone else got the opportunity. After 3-4 times, I would go and say that I can do this job. That's when but very vehemently, I have not pursued. Probably I can change. I should change that. I would change that if I can go back and do that.
Beautiful. Next question is from Urvashi. We have, hi ma'am, your multitasking is an inspiration for many of us. I have seen a long queue outside your office throughout the college hours whenever I would come in the Hazel. Already many students would be in line. Still, every time we would speak to you, you would be calm and composed and never say no to any new opportunities for IBS. How do you handle so many energetic students all the time?
So this is something that I believe that, thank God my energy comes from the energy of these students. So they would probably pass out and probably would start aging. But since I am in the campus, I am constantly surrounded by those, roughly around 25-year-olds. So my energy levels are the same as those, or I think, because their energy is so high. This is something that I share with my colleagues and, other forums, that the energy rubs off. That high energy rubs off and then it stays. So, and I keep thinking this one thing, when the students have so much of enthusiasm and energy, I mean, they deserve at least listening to that particular energy. They just need an output for, sharing. And all they want is to seek out for you to sit back, listen, and then explain it to them. If you have to say no, still explain it to them. Okay, this one experience I will share. The first time that I handled Trishna, which is the management fest, we had these, you have usually the evening, you have a lot of artists coming and performing, and you have usually one of the major companies which will handle all of those things. So we had a tie-up with this company where we said that 50% of the payment would be done before and 50% of the payment would be done after the entire event is over. And they have agreed for that, because our management also does not do 100% payment upfront. They say that, okay, 50-50. So we did that. 50% payment was done. And the final day, we are supposed to have these big people coming in. So we had, I think, Zakir Hussain. Zakir Khan, I think, one of the stand-up comedians, and a lot of big people who are supposed to come and perform. And this guy comes from the company through which we are doing this. This guy comes at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon and says, they are not going to come unless you don't pay up 100%. And the entire team of students who were working with me on this, and I was just zapped. We were just sitting, and we had we had a huge crowd there. We had 2,000 students who were waiting for the evening to happen. And this guy walks in saying that you pay 100% and then we wouldn't do. So I for a second, I felt like crying, and I wanted to tell that guy, I'm a teacher. Come on. I teach courses to my students. I am not an event manager for me to handle all these kind of hang-ups. But no one is going to listen to me at that point of time, right? That's what I thought, I have to get it worked. So we sat with that guy, we spoke to him, we kind of threatened him saying that, do you know what is the power of the students and all that marketing concepts, which I would talk in the class. I brought it back there. And I said that if you're not going to get these guys here, we will ensure that none of the other colleges will pick you up. We will ensure that the entire student community does all this, blah, 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 all that. And my students also did something at the backup. They tried to pull in something from their side and then tried to satisfy this guy for the time being so that he comes and does. And we got, a confirmation from the head office telling him that, within 48 hours after the performance, the payment would be done in total. So, and 7 o'clock, yes, the entire artist came in, but from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 o'clock, this whole thing was happening. And then I thought probably my entire hair had turned gray in that 4 hours of time. So, and believe me, if the students were not that enthusiastic, the students, if I didn't have that entire students who were working towards it, I wouldn't have probably drawn it. So that is where my process goes in every time. If the students are able to put up so much of effort, then I think I deserve to give them at least that much of time to, listen to them or to get it happening.
Beautiful. It's like a mutual thing that you feel you're doing to students. And last question, Madhavi, because I have to apologize. There's a lot of compliments coming to you, which I'm skipping. I'm just taking up only the questions. And Bhavya asks, when are you planning to come back for writing?
Come back for
Writing.
writing, yeah. So I think in this entire other activities, the writing went back a little. So I need to relook at it. I have at the back of my mind, I keep having a lot of ideas. I want to start blogging, you know. I'm into a lot of traveling, and I keep wanting to have a travelogue. I keep sharing those travel experiences into my classes in terms of how customers are different, how companies are different, how we are treated differently in the classes. But then I want to do that. I'll do that. Definitely, yes. Yes, now. Yes, for that opportunity now.
Beautiful. Can we take one more question, Madhavi?
Yes, yes, please.
So we have, just lost the name, Kuntal asking, when an individual believes that he or she is rationally good at 2-3 things, considering multiple exposures in life, for example, graduation, MBA, hobbies, and etc., which is that one thing he or she should select for a long-term career? Also considering there is no opportunities knocking, but to build a new one for oneself.
So, hi Kuntal, first of all. Nice to see you back here.
Hello, ma'am.
Okay, so Kuntal was one of those persons who was very, very active, and I still remember he still has a great hobby of photography. Okay, we used to have this club called as iFocus in Mumbai, and we have a club called Nazariya now in IBS Hyderabad. So both of them focused on photography, which is again a very close thing to my heart. So I still think that, you know, if you're not passionate about it, if you don't like it, I mean, what is the point in doing it? So two things, either it is paying you really very well. So let's be practical. If there is a lot of payment coming in, if the salary is something that you're happy about, go continue to do it, because somewhere you would be able to, you know, stock it or use it later for your own new ventures that you can try out. Or you should be doing something passionate. So this job that I'm doing, I'm openly saying that it's not a great paymaster. It's a good paymaster. I mean, decent enough now, not very great earlier when I started. But yes, the amount of satisfaction that I get at the end of the day is something that I don't think any other career for me would have given. I mean, I'm talking about myself. I enjoy it. And I think I don't see any other this thing. It took time for me to accept that teaching is the role for me. I mean, I tried a lot of things and then I came into teaching. But now if I turn back and look, all the dots get connected. As Steve Jobs said, when you look back in your life, you see that the dots get connected. So for me, the dots are connected. So probably for you, please continue to do. I mean, please continue to try. It's no, I mean, I don't think age is a restriction there. There's nothing like, you know, you're not young anymore, so you can't try. I mean, I was not young. I don't think myself very young right now, but I still picked up the challenge of, you know, handling these activities and all those things, which is an additional role. Similarly, I think you should like the job, whatever you do.
Thanks, Madhavi. I think that you've taken all the questions and answered.
I have a question now.
Yeah.
Madhavi, I've got other two questions. One is that very quickly, how does it feel to have your son in the same college?
Okay, so we had a strict, we had a strict, you don't recognize me, I don't recognize you policy. So in the first part, I mean, even today, there are a lot of, I think, students who don't know who my son is. And a lot of faculty, close to 80 to 90% of faculty also don't know that my son is there. You know, suddenly once in a while, someone comes and says that, you know, this guy is your son. We heard that this is there. Who is that? I mean, there are times when the faculty who are teaching his section would come and say, we heard that your son is there. And I would say, who told you? I said, yeah, is there. So which section? I would say, tell the section without knowing that they're teaching that section. And then they would say, that's my section. What's the name? And I would say, then immediately clamp up and say, no, you finish teaching the semester, then I will share. So
I can't help.
I think it should, that's a question that that guy should be answering, because he probably had more problems than me because he's a faculty son then.
I said, now I can't help but read out some of the compliments that you've got. Madhvi ma'am is, Sangeeta says, Madhvi ma'am is one of the most approachable and a teacher who is very much involved in the learning process as much as a student. While working with her, it does not feel like being bossed by someone or to do something without knowing why we are doing it. Rather, we would carefully understand the purpose of the task, and she works along with us and makes us learn in a very fun and interactive way. She said she set an example of how marketing management is to be taught to students than just sitting inside classroom and going through presentations. Thank you so much, ma'am. So proud to be in this conversation with you, and feel surreal to get to know so many more snippets of your career, which we'd not known previously. You are wonderful.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Sangeeta was also one of the students who, after finishing, I think, MBA, she would come back and, there are some activities that I would do, and she would say, ma'am, this activity can be done this way. And I was like, I gave it back to her saying that, okay, you create it and get it. So while she was working, she would create a separate activity for me to go back and run it in the campus in my courses. So thank you, Sangeeta, for joining, and thanks for the compliments.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Satyajit says, I have not met her, but any time I saw her in any meeting, a constant smile that keeps motivating us always. Blessed to have a faculty like her.
Yeah.
Then Asim Nagar says, ma'am was the most approachable teacher and a great influencer and go-to person for all career and also personal problems available in her staff room. I had a finance background and was prepared to take finance as a major. Post attending her marketing classes in semester 1 and 2, the way she taught marketing as a subject made the same very interesting and had a great influence, which led me to take marketing as a major instead of finance. You are an inspiration to all, ma'am. More power to you.
Thank you, Azim. Thank you, Azim. These are very challenging guys, and they would do projects which, to be honest, I wouldn't know all of it. I had to come back home and I had to, go back and read. I think there's Jagdish also, who's there in this thing, Jagdish Kale, who was, he did his internship, if I remember very well, in Godrej, and the entire class would pull him saying, the minute he would open his mouth, he would talk about Godrej, and then I had to go and learn about Godrej to, kind of counter him in the class. And I see Debashis is also there. Debashis was someone who has his own, he's a part of distribution. They have a distribution of, I think, Coca-Cola. So when they would I think they would put these challenging questions to me in the class. I would pull them in front of the class and say, now you answer the question to the entire class. So that's how, these people came back and they did share a lot of things. I see Kritika also there in the group somewhere. And this girl did a lot of did a wonderful project with Cadbury's. And then I would threaten her to come back and then teach or discuss about that. Stop banging your head. Discuss that in the class in front of others so that, others know what's happening in that. Azim, Nishant and Azim were there together. Sorry, Kritika. Go ahead.
You made my life miserable. Not only did she do that, she tortured me by saying, I'm moving to Hyderabad, so you better win this award. This will be like my going away present or something like that. I'm like staring at her 750 students and you want me to do that? So yeah, I remember it still.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Pratika. Okay, so Nishant says, we see ma'am as one of our role models. And there is somebody who says, proud of you, my sister, double MBA marketing and HRM. And you know who that is.
that's my brother.
And is there. And I think Shashikant also did join.
Yeah. And I see, Gaurav Bhatia is there. He's also somewhere. I think, Gaurav, if I'm not mistaken, you're from 2008 batch or 7 batch. I don't remember, but I do remember the entire gang and all the discussions that we had. There's Anjali who's just passing out this year, you know, and lot of things. I mean, connection with, in terms of the course, connection starts from the class and then it goes into, I think, beyond the class. And today, you know, a lot of them are still there, connecting, talking, doing a lot of other discussions other than the course ones.
I think compliments are just not stopping. Lalita says something, Tumkur's EERWS, Tumkur has something to say, lovely seminar. And Kuntal says, ma'am, to counseling sessions for every individual. So Lalita says, Madhvi ma'am is an inspiration for us. She's always filled with energy. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Deepika has something more to say.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we all go, let's just have a quick picture.
Congratulations.
Yes, please go ahead, sir. You're muted, sir. EERWS. I don't know your name.
Thank you, Niranjana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mother Garu. All the best.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for joining.
A
Thank
quick
you for
picture.
Keep going. All the best. May God bless you.
Thank you.
May I
Thank you.
request everyone to switch on their cameras? Let's have a quick picture. With a smile.
I see Prema there. Hi, Prema. I see Rachna. I'm sorry I didn't say hi to a lot of you. I don't see all the names on my screen. I'm sorry, but every one of you who's here, I know, I mean, thank you. You're very special. Preetham, you came in a little late.
Smile.
I discussed about our journey there. Preetham is right now the marketing manager for Continental Coffee. So I'm also promoting Continental Coffee there, Preetham. Doing my marketing bit.
Thank you, ma'am. It's good to have here, and she has been the pioneer of all of us here who have taken marketing. And I guess the best way we have learned marketing is through her only.
So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Madhvi, for such a fabulous session. And what a great support you have over here. Your awards, etc., hardly makes any, I mean, really don't have much meaning with the kind of people who joined us today.
I don't think those awards are any great, Madhu. I mean, I'm not belittling them, but I think the awards for me is all these guys who are here right now.
Exactly, and I'm sure
they are my best prizes.
I think she deserves a big applaud from all of us.
Thank you.
So great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you for your participation and thank you for your appreciation. And thanks a ton, Madhvi, for being here, for agreeing to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kritika.
Bye, Pranav. I hope you're recovering. Thank you for joining.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Pranav and I keep having a constant discussion about automobile sector. He's my to-go guide to get all the kinds of info about automobile sector and feedback. He's working with the Tatas and we keep brainstorming a lot about what the world is moving on in terms of automobiles, and then all that is again going back into my class. So thank you. I'm sorry I do miss, I think I have missed a lot of people here and I'm so sorry for missing you out, but thank you for being there. And thank you, Madhu, for this wonderful opportunity. I mean, I know I didn't say yes for the first time. You made me say yes. So yes for the opportunities.
Yes to the opportunities. Thank you so much, Madhvi. And thank you, Kritika, for
pleasure is ours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.